Uh, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool prototype modeler. I tried to make a few concessions to modeling as that are as possible. Um, I modeled the Santa Fe Railway's Alma branch that went from Burlingame, Kansas to Alma, Kansas, as it was in May 1943. Um, Originally, I was going to model Santa Fe's Raton Pass that went from over Raton Mountain between Colorado and New Mexico. And I researched that for about 15 years, and I wrote a book about it. And then I realized when the book was published, I was never going to have enough time, space, or money to build that. And I talked to Bill Childers in 1983 when the book was published. I talked to Bill Childers at the Santa Fe convention. I said, Bill, I need to model a branch line. What branch line should I model? Of course, it was Santa Fe branch line. And he said I would model either the Santa Fe branch or the Alma branch. And I said, the Alma branch? I said, what's that? And he told me that there was this branch that went from Burlingame to Alma. And he said, I was going to model it, and I've been collecting all this stuff, and I'm not going to model it anymore, and I'll mail it to you. So that's what he did. And that's what got me started modeling the Alma branch. Okay. The Alma branch here is in northeastern Kansas, in the Flint Hills region of Kansas. You can see where there is there on the map. This is kind of a blow up of it. The Burlingame is down there in the bottom right, and then it goes up to Alma at the top. And at Alma, the branch interchanged with the Rock Island. Okay, we can go again. And this is the profile. There was a west of Eskridge, and of course east of Alma. There was a grade, 1.33% grade, and at certain times trains would have to double the hill or use a helper, but most of the time not. Okay, this is my layout. I contacted John Armstrong to design my layout, and I sent him all my station plats and tunnel diagrams and all sorts of things, and had him draw a fairly prototypically correct track arrangement here, where everything was to be in its correct place. The only way I changed John Armstrong's plan was that he spaced my stations where it was convenient for him to put them in his drawing, and I went back and respaced all the stations so they would be proportionately distanced as they were on the prototype. Okay. I have monthly op sessions on my railroad. I invite 3 guys over, serve them lunch, and one of the guys is the engineer, one of them is the great conductor, and the other is a brakeman. And I have these Alma branch operations protocols that are based upon interviews with about a dozen former employees on the Alma branch, and station agents and people who worked at businesses and so forth. And it basically tells what you do first, what you do next, and so forth in an operating session. Okay. This is the prototype time table that was in effect in May 1943 on the Alma branch. You can see the stations all listed there: Burlingame, Harveyville, Bradford, Eskridge, Hessdale, Allendorf, and Alma. The train left, it was a daily mixed train, ran daily except Sunday. You see it left at 11:16 a.m. and got to Alma at 1:25, and then it left Alma at 3 p.m. And got back to Burlingame at 4:35. Okay. This is a time card. This is a switch list, prototype Santa Fe switch list that we have used in the op session. Talking to a Santa Fe brakeman, he said they don't use the word set out, pick up. They use take and leave. So today when we do op sessions, that's the terms we use on the switch list, take and leave. Okay. I made these diagrams for every station. It's mounted on the fascia, and that way the operators can see where the various locations that need to be switched. And so this is Burlingame. We had this is a Behringer photo I got fairly recently, and it shows it was obviously taken off the rear of a passenger train, and here's the smoke from the steam locomotive. But you can see all in the far distance is the grain elevator, and then next to that is the station, and then coming forward you have the water tank and the water treatment plant, and there's some sort of warehouse, and then a maintenance waste shed. Okay. This is the Burlingame depot, the prototype. As you say, the grain elevator is there to the right. Okay. Oh, go back a minute, Greg. That car there, just to the left, out of the picture, is a BXO boxcar, which was used for, in this particular case, for LCL. Okay. This is Burlingame, the depot, which doesn't have a roof yet, and the water tank and the pump house and water treatment plant. The water tanks are really the only structures on the layout that were built from kits. And this is the clipboard here, and with the paperwork for operating session. Okay. Here you have the Santa Fe, what's it called, Santa Fe Trailways truck. I guess they were contracting it out because this isn't painted in Santa Fe Trailways colors, but it's backed up against the coach baggage and caboose car, putting LCL into the baggage compartment of that car. Okay. Just another view of the buildings here at Burlingame. The egg timer, I was having trouble in op sessions that when I said, okay, before you leave town, you have to fill up the tender with water. And 2 minutes later, the conductor would say, okay, that's enough. And it wasn't. And so the egg timer makes sure that they stay at the water tank long enough to get the tender filled up. Okay. This is the coaling tower at Burlingame. The night watchman at Burlingame shoveled coal from the gondola into the tender that was parked right next to it. The locomotive was parked on, they called it the elevator track or the dock track because there was a loading dock there too. So he spent his evening taking care of the locomotive, filling up the sandbox, shoveling the coal, greasing the various mechanical things. So anyway, let's go to the next one. This is the dock track. Obviously, the loading dock is there. That's just down from the grain elevator. Okay. Here's the grain elevator. I scratch built it from styrene, covered it with little squares or rectangles of aluminum foil, and glued those on, and I use various kinds of corrugated material for the roof and so forth. This is a little warehouse just to the right. Uh, I don't know exactly what it was for, but it was, I think they probably stored grain doors in there. Okay. Here's the water tank at Burlingame. In fact, as soon as the crew came on duty at Burlingame, they filled the tender because the locomotive had been basically steaming up all night, and they filled the tender. Then they went around and did all the switching at Burlingame, and then before they left town, they filled the tender again. Okay. This is a B&H model's water tank. It obviously doesn't have the spout on it yet, but that's the only thing missing, the spout and the rigging. Okay, there are 3 of these on the railroad. By the way, those vertical steel water tanks were very characteristic of the Santa Fe, and the first vertical steel water tanks on the Santa Fe system were on the Alma branch. Okay, this is the pump house and water treatment plant. Okay. Here you see the stockyard at Burlingame, and in the background is the standard bulk plant, and this here close up front is it's Skelly bulk plant. Okay. This is the mobile bulk plant at Burlingame. On the bulk plants at Burlingame, I really didn't have that much data, and what I did is I interviewed people that worked at these plants and so forth, and they gave me descriptions and sketches and so forth. So based on their sketches and a lot of information that I got from bulk plants, about bulk plants at various locations, I built this bulk plant, and also the Standard Oil one. The Scally one, there were still portions of it left there at Burlingame, and I was able to measure those and kind of fill in anything that was missing. Okay. This is the Standard Oil bulk plant at Burlingame again. There's the standard warehouse that's with a hip roof. That's very standard, found in almost all the Standard Oil bulk plants that I've seen. Okay. Okay, this is the bridge. Need to go back, or did we go too far? Anyway, this is the prototype bridge west of Burlingame, east of Harveyville, and it goes across Dragoon Creek. So I built a model using a true scale, or what is it, Campbell, I guess it is now, a Campbell kit, and I made those portals out of styrene, and I added some other bracing and so forth to make it more prototypical. So anyway, this is the bridge across Dragoon Creek. My locomotive here is a stand-in. It's a Bachmann engine. It's a little 260. It's amazing. It will pull, my little Bachmann 260 will pull 23 cars at my 1.33% grade. Okay, next please. Here's the diagram at Harveyville. There's the stockyard, the depot, the coal bin, grain elevator, and water tank. Okay. Here's the Harveyville depot. This was I model May 1943. In May 1943, all the depots on the Alma branch were painted red with green trim. Okay. Next. There's my model of the depot at Harveyville. It had a concrete platform. The little building there to the Left is the coal house, and all my I built my all my depots back in the olden days when people were still building things out of wood. So all my depots are made out of wood, but using castings from BH model Santa Fe prototype window and door castings. Okay. There's the water tank at Harveyville. All right. Here you can see the grain elevator at Harveyville, the water closet. It didn't have any water. It was just an outhouse, but they called it on the Santa Fe. They called all those outhouses water closets. And here's the water tank over here to the right. Here's my model of the grain elevator at Harveyville. The tower part of it, I bought 4 kits, grain elevator kits from Walters, and I used them to kit bash 2 of my grain elevators. And so the tower part was built from parts from those kits. And then the long warehouse part, I scratch built out of styrene. Okay. There's the mixed train, the daily mixed train at Harveyville, heading out of the house track, heading west to unload stock at Hessdale. Okay. By the way, most of my grass on my layout is grass mats, Hecky grass mats, because it duplicates so nicely the tall blue stem prairie grass. This is the looking east on the at Harveyville. This is the stock pen. I built all the stock pens using parts, the fence parts and the gates and the ramps. I used parts that Pat Wilkinson in Texas laser cut for me. Okay, let's keep going here. This is the coal house and sand house at Harveyville. Okay. Bradford was just a little siding there between my mind is gone here. Between Harveyville and Eskridge. Okay. We have another duplicate in there. Okay, keep moving. This is Bradford. It was a little, it was a flag stop. The only thing there was the depot, and there were some houses there at Bradford. The way down in the distance is a bridge, and is a plate girder bridge, and then there's the local road there that crosses the track and with a crossbuck. Come on. So there's my Bradford depot. Okay, and there's the plate girder bridge that went across still Dragoon Creek. Here's my bridge across Dragoon Creek. Actually, there were 2 bridges, 2 plate girder bridges, and depending on which direction you're going on my layout, I didn't have room for both of the plate girder bridges. So going one direction, the bridge has one number, and coming the other direction, it has a different number. Okay. Okay, this is Bradford. Here's the little depot. Here's the stock pen there and the stub siding. Um,
Nice touch with the sand pile there for bedding.
yeah, I tried to put a sand pile in for every stock pen. Okay, I use uh, I used microengineering code 55 flex track, and turnout's custom built by railway engineering code 70, I mean code 55. And my tracks at Burlingame, the mainline tracks were code 70. And I used some Proto 87 stores code 70 turnouts in there. Okay, here's Eskridge. There's a lot of switching to be done at Eskridge, although Eskridge was not a very large town. I think it was only about 550 people. Okay, there's the Eskridge Depot. The Alma Branch was left of a railroad called the Manhattan, Alma, and Burlingame Railway. It was a railroad built jointly with the Santa Fe and Union Pacific to so that the Union Pacific could tap the coal fields of the area around Burlingame. And I mean, Santa Fe owned all the coal fields, and the only way Union Pacific could get their coal was through the Santa Fe, or at least that's the only way they could do it economically. But practically as soon as the railroad was built, that was in 1880, the Santa Fe realized that it wasn't such a great partnership, and they started doing everything they could do to get the UP to back out of the relationship. And Union Pacific finally did in 1893 when there was the depression, the economic depression. Okay. This is the lumber yard at Eskridge, Clinton L. Scott Lumber Company. Nowadays it's still there, but it's called the Eskridge Lumber Company. But the people there at Eskridge Lumber Company were very accommodating and let me walk around the location and measuring everything. In fact, after I went away, the last time I went away, I realized that I failed to measure the width of the boards on one of the sheds, and I couldn't. It had metal siding that was applied on the outside, but earlier it had just wood siding, and the wood siding on this there were three different sizes of wood siding on that building, and I couldn't remember. I didn't write down or measure myself, and so I called them up at Eskridge Lumber Company, and I said, you know, would you mind going out there to that shed and measuring that for me, and then calling me back? And he did. So, you know, I had great cooperation with people there in the Alma Branch area. Okay. Here's the Clinton Scott Lumber Company. Next. That was the main building. Here we have two other buildings. The roofing building, there's just a storage building here, and then that one with the shed roof down there to the right is they called it the cement building, and all their cement products and concrete blocks and so forth were stored down there. Okay. Here you see the roofing building here to the right on the prototype photo. The Phillips 66 bulk plant is almost out of the photo on the left, and then that's the Standard Oil bulk plant there in the photo to the left. Okay. So here we have a lot of these things aren't installed permanently yet. There's the grain elevator at Eskridge, and then you have Sinclair, the Sinclair bulk plant at Eskridge. Okay, next. This is the Standard Oil bulk plant at Eskridge. Let's keep moving. And here's Phillips 66 bulk plant at Eskridge. It's kind of interesting. In my interviews, they say the person who owned the bulk plant said that all the filling of the tank truck was done. There was a hose inside that building, and they would pull it out of the building and fill up the tank truck, and then they'd put it back in the building rather than having a pipe outdoors to do it. Okay. So here's a get better view. Closest to us is Sinclair. I've got a decal there on the end of the Sinclair that says Sinclair Refining Company, I believe it is. Yes. Eskridge Station. And then the other one says Standard Oil Eskridge Station. And then and then the Phillips 66 one is the little one down there. It's really great that that Grant Line came out with all the bulk oil plant parts and so forth, but I ended up being a little short, and I ended up using some plaster castings from Clark. Who's the guy that who made some plaster castings from?
Chad Boaz.
Yeah, Chad Boaz.
Yeah, he made them for Jason Clocky, and then he sells them if you want them.
Yeah, he made several for me too. And over there on the left, you see the coal bin and some of the lumberyard buildings, and then way on down, I think we'll get better. Yeah, we've got a warehouse and a granary and the depot, and then the stock pen is on down around the curve. Okay. Here's the grain elevator at Eskridge. This was a kit bash from the Walters kits. I got the Railroad Model Craftsman Drummel Kit Bash Award 1 month for for building this. Okay. All right. This is when you leave Eskridge going west. You go over this cut and or this fill, excuse me, and you have the culvert there, and you're going up grade, leaving town, going up grade. This is the start of that steep grade. In this particular case, the boxcar is for LCL. Okay, keep going. This is the stock pen at Eskridge. I should have had that earlier. Okay. Here's the stock pen. I only had room for a fence along the backdrop, and then this the chutes. This is the warehouse, and then the granary is the building next to it. I made the footings for the granary. They're supposed to be limestone footings, and they took flat pieces of limestone and stacked them up. And so I took pieces of 060 styrene and cut them roughly a certain size. I can't remember. I think it was a foot square. And when you scribe it and you just break it, I left the broken edges to kind of simulate the roughness of the stone. Okay. This is the maintenance of woodshed there at Eskridge. Okay, Eskridge Hill. That one picture we had earlier should have been along in here. This is the daily mixed train. That in this case, it's a steel combine. That was the. It just depends on what time in history that what was carrying the LCL. Sometimes it was a box car. Sometimes it was a combine like this. Sometimes for years through my era, it was a wooden coach baggage and caboose car. Okay. This is the, here at the end where under Kenneth Goebel is the coach baggage and caboose car. It was old wooden combine 2375. And this is a whole string of stock cars headed for Hessdale. You had the brakemen riding the tops of the cars there. Okay. So here's we're coming up the grade, and this is the Eskridge Hill. This is what I got it in here twice. Okay. Another view. There were a couple cuts there on the Eskridge Hill, so this is one of the cuts. This is a culvert there on Eskridge Hill. Now we get to Hessdale, and Hessdale was a very important station on the Almer branch. I was told that more stock were loaded and unloaded at Hessdale than at any other station in Kansas, not including the main stockyards and so forth. But that was just told. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay, here's Hessdale. One of the standards station signs. Stock pins behind. This is the little passenger depot. Alice Mikey was the station agent there for years and years. Just beyond there is another little building, which is the freight station. Okay. So here's my model. I've been working on photo backdrops, so I have that those photos up there. But there is this big hill. All the photos shown here were taken on the actual prototype. And so here we have the passenger station, the freight station, and the stock pins. And you notice the stations are painted red. Okay. Oh, wait, one more thing. Go back. You notice that the cross bucks here are halfway between the two tracks. There wasn't a cross buck on the outside of each track. It was between the two tracks, which I'd never seen before. But I looked up in the Santa Fe standards, and that was a standard way of doing it on places that were out in the boonies. Okay. This is the road, the Hessdale Road. This road took you to Allendorf. Here's the model part, and the rest of this is photograph. Okay. Here's another picture of Hessdale, the baggage wagon between the two depots there. You're looking in the distance. Keep going. I think those pictures do a great job of showing distance. Okay, keep going. Another picture. I'm sorry to keep sticking all oh, here's an interesting one. You see the truck cab up there on the fence. This is the same train that we saw, the long train I said that was the mixed train that at that day was all stock. And here they're unloading those cars at Hessdale. And they had this truck cab up there, and the conductor sits in the truck cab and does his paperwork and so forth while everybody else is unloading the train. And so I have the truck cab on my model. Okay. Go back, Greg, where we can keep going back. There you can see the, oh, well, you can see it on this one too, the truck cab on top of the fence there. Okay, keep going. Here's Allendorf. Allendorf was nothing but a siding. It was a flag stop. It was named after the Allendorf Ranch. And the Allendorf Ranch had had this siding, so they wouldn't have to go all the way to Alma to pick up their cattle. They could have them loaded right here, adjacent to the ranch, and make things much easier. For one thing, I was told that the cattle didn't like walking over the ties on the bridge at Mill Creek in Alma. So having this siding adjacent to the ranch was a big help. Okay. So here's the prototype Allendorf. Look, that's just the way the grass was. You look how thick that prairie grass is, and it's, you know, the track's overgrown and so forth. And that's what I've tried to model. Okay, this is my stock pen at Allendorf. I used grout, tile grout, in the base of the model to simulate the kind of dirty and muddy areas in the stock pen. Okay. This is the, yes.
The stock pens, they weren't covered with cinders or brick or something. They just were mud and dirt.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is the road. This is the road at Allendorf. That earlier road I showed you is the other end of this road. So you could get on that road at Hessdale and drive in your vehicle and come here across the track at Allendorf. And this is all this, you can see the photo backdrop photos. I've gone back and these areas that are kind of yellow are greener now. They match better the grass that I have in the grass mats. I went back and messed around with them in Photoshop and made them match better. So I think it looks now looks better than it does here. Okay. So here's the train going down the track towards Alma and it's at Allendorf. Okay. This is the bridge across Mill Creek at Alma. All right. Here's the diagram for Alma. There was a Y for turning locomotives at Burlingame. Well, actually, there was a double Y at Burlingame. There were one Y within a Y, and then there was a Y at Alma. And when you got to Alma, the train, they left the LCL car at the depot. In fact, when they went to all the stations, the first thing they did is they parked the LCL car at the depot so that could be handled while the locomotive and the crew was switching cars at that station. And then at Alma, that's where the crew usually had its lunch. There was a little restaurant uptown, not far from the depot, and they would go uptown and eat lunch, and then they'd come back, and I've got a picture of them sitting on the bench at the depot, just, you know, killing time until it was time for them to head back. What they did is they did their switching first. They parked the LCO car. They ate lunch. They came back, switched any cars they had to, and then turned the locomotive. No, excuse me. They filled the tank with water, and then they turned the locomotive. They didn't want to, the locomotive and tended to be too heavy for the very light rail that was there at Alma. The rail on most of the rail on the Alma branch was 61 pound. Okay. So here we have the facilities at Alma. We have D&D Oil Company there. The depot. There's just a warehouse down there where that boxcar is parked. Okay, keep moving. This is the warehouse I was telling you. You can see where the Y goes around here. And in the middle of that backdrop area, that round backdrop area, there's a pop-up, and you pop up there, and the only switch that is not very accessible is this one here, right there to the right. And you can come up out of the pop-up, you can throw that switch. By the way, all my switches are hand thrown with prototypical high star switch stands. I can't remember what the company was. I bought them. That's one of the first things I bought when I went to someone's layout, and they had these high star switch stands. I said, I need a bunch of those, and I ordered about 30 of them. Okay. Here's the train switching cars at Alma. There's the stock pen, the Alma stock pen to the right. Okay. This is a photo of the Alma stock pen. And you can see some of the bulk plants down there in the distance, kind of the mid-right there. These are a bunch of cowboys here to drive cattle from here to their ranches. Here in the Flint Hills of Kansas, the grass was all blue stem grass. It was big blue stem and little blue stem, and these grasses are, as grasses go, are high in protein. And so cattle were shipped from New Mexico, California, all sorts of Western destinations out to the Flint Hills to be fed on the blue stem grass through the spring and summer. And then in the fall, they would be loaded on trains and sent out to market. Okay. So here's the portion of the stock pen that I could build. We have a hog shed over there to the right. Okay. Now we're looking towards the Rock Island interchange. That's on my layout. Any cars in an operating session that need to be interchanged with the Rock Island are pushed down there. And you see a hole in the backdrop, and that hole in the backdrop, the interchange track at Alma or at Burlingame, it's actually the main line at Burlingame. But anyway, in order to build trains and pick up cars, you got to be able to switch through the backdrop because the tracks aren't long enough. So that's the pass-through hole. But this is the Standard Oil bulk plant at Alma, and you notice the hip roof, the standard hip roof. Okay. Any questions?
Very good, Jared.
Very nice,
Thank you.
Jared. Jared, I have a question. This is Rod Thompson. You modeled all those bulk oil facilities at each town. What
Yeah.
was the use of bulk oil? Was
Well,
it for
bulk oil is-
agriculture?
Well, yeah, but any kind of, it was a wholesaler. A bulk plant was a wholesaler. And so they went out and supplied gas stations with that brand name, or they went out and served farms and ranches that usually had a
So the
tank of,
the bulk oil actually would contain gasoline for agricultural and
yes,
other vehicles.
yes.
It wasn't actually oil. It was,
It wasn't like Bunker C or something.
No, it would be
okay.
fuel oil, kerosene, gasoline, diesel, any petroleum products that dealer or bulk dealer would be selling to farms, ranches, as well as local service stations in the communities. They were common all over the Midwest.
Were there any industries in that area of Kansas, or was it strictly farmland and prairie?
That's what it was. Yeah.
I've
It was-
never been to Kansas, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was, agricultural. And interesting, during the war, you had they pooled tank cars, and so back during the war, one of those bulk plants, say for Standard Oil, might get a car that was marked Conoco or something to get their product, and sometimes a bulk plant they would get a partial tank car, and they would pump out so many gallons, and then they move it on to a different location to unload the rest.
Mm.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Highly
Any other
convincing prairie grass and stock pens. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Well, it helped to have the laser cut parts.
Yeah.
What he did is he sent me these fence sections that had 6 boards on them, and you can then put the fence posts along, and then he cut out the chute sections, and then you would take those off the fret and assemble them. I have found that the best glue for putting together wood kits is super glue. I assembled all my wooden trestles with super glue, and I want my trestle beds to sit down on the masonite that I have for my creek bottoms, and they need to be flat. And so you glue them together, and then you sand them back and forth on the on sandpaper until they're all the right length. And when they're glued together with super glue, they do not come apart when you're doing that. If you use something like white glue or carpenter's glue, much of that going back and forth sanding would cause them to come apart.
You use just the regular thin super glue, Jared? Or
I
do you
use
like
crazy glue.
crazy. Okay, just the thin or gel glue?
No, regular thin.
Just regular thin. Okay.
Hmm.
Good looking buildings.
Thank you.
Good looking rolling stock there too, I noticed on some of them.
I don't know. I just kind of picked that up somewhere. I want to say that Bob here has assembled a lot of my cars for me. One of the things, unlike Clark and some other people who like to build models, I hate to build models. And I didn't want to build all my freight cars and so forth, but I wanted nice freight cars and prototypical freight cars. So I've paid several people to assemble those freight cars for me, and Bob is one of them. So that's where all those nice cars came from.
Right.
Any other questions?
Well, thanks, everybody. We've got Ron on board for Saturday tomorrow with the Michiana Division meeting. And so if you want to get in on that, that's going to be on Zoom too. And we can send you the details. It's on the group IO for our division, or if you're not on there, we can send them to you. And then next week, Barry, you're up. So we're looking forward to that. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.